My name is Lucy. I am 25 years old. I live alone in a small apartment in Idaho. I rent the place myself. It is not big, but it is clean and quiet. I moved here 2 years ago to start a new job. I work at a local cinema. I check tickets, sell popcorn, and help people find their seats. I like my job. It is simple and the people are nice. I do not earn a lot of money, but it is enough for my life. I met Ben at work. He came to the cinema often. At first, I thought he just liked movies. He came almost every week, sometimes twice. He always smiled and asked, "What do you think of this movie?" I told him my opinion, and he smiled more. One day, after the movie, he waited near the door. He said, "You always look so calm. I like that." I thanked him, but I felt shy. The next week, he came again. He didn't buy popcorn or drinks. He just talked to me for a few minutes before his film. After that, it became a habit. He always found a reason to talk to me, sometimes about the film, sometimes about the weather or his day. I started to wait for him. When he walked in, my heart beat a little faster. One evening, he stayed after the film and asked, "Do you want to get a coffee sometime?" I said yes. We met the next day after my shift. We sat outside a small cafe near the cinema. He told me about his job. He worked at a car wash. He said he liked cars and liked simple work. He didn't ask me much about my life, but I didn't mind. I enjoyed listening to him talk. After that, we started texting. He sent short messages, mostly jokes or pictures of funny things. I always replied quickly. I smiled when I saw his name on my phone. He never said anything deep, but I thought he just needed time. I believed he liked me. A few weeks later, he asked me to meet him at the park. I said yes. We walked, talked, and laughed. He made me feel special. When he dropped me off near my apartment, he said, "You're easy to be with." That night, I sat on my bed for hours, thinking of every word he said. I began to like him more. Every time he texted, I felt happy. But sometimes, he didn't reply for hours. Some days, he didn't text at all. I waited, wondering what I did wrong. When I asked, "Are you okay?" he said, "Just busy." One Friday, I had a day off. I sent a message, "Do you want to go out today?" He replied, "Maybe later." I waited the whole evening. He didn't call. He didn't show up. I stayed home, watching the phone. At midnight, I gave up and went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up early and saw his message. "Sorry, I fell asleep." I felt a small pain in my chest. "Still," I said, "that's okay." I wanted to believe him. The next time I saw him, he smiled like nothing happened. He said, "Let's get something to eat." We went to a small place near the bus stop. He talked about cars, about a TV show, about his old school. I listened. I laughed when he laughed. I tried to talk about my job, but he changed the topic. He didn't ask more. After the food, he said, "Let's do this again." I said yes, but I felt something strange. He always chose the time, the place. He never asked what I wanted. I thought maybe I was just being too sensitive. A few days later, I was walking home from the market. I saw Ben near the bus stop. He was with a girl. She was pretty. They were standing close. She laughed, and he smiled at her the same way he smiled at me. My feet stopped. My hands felt cold. I turned and walked away fast. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking of the girl. I thought, she must be his friend. But it didn't feel right. The next morning, I looked at my phone. He had sent a message. "Hey, what are you doing today?" I didn't reply. I couldn't. I felt confused and hurt. That evening, he came to the cinema. I was behind the counter. He smiled and said, "Long day." I patient smile. I said, "I saw you yesterday." He looked surprised. "Where?" I said, "You were with a girl." He laughed and said, "Oh, her? She's just someone I know." I asked, "Do you like her?" He said, "It's not serious." I didn't like that answer. I said, "What about me?" He looked at me and said, "You're fun, but we're just spending time, right?" I said, "I thought we were more..." He smiled and said, "Don't make this a big deal." That moment, something broke inside me. I said, "I liked you. I thought you liked me too." He said, "I didn't ask for that." Then he walked away. I stood still. I felt like the world was quiet and cold. I finished my shift without a word. When I got home, I sat on the floor and cried. Not loud, just soft tears. I didn't want anyone to hear. The next day, I deleted his number. I didn't wait for another message. I didn't want to hear sorry or "it's not serious" again. I cleaned my room. I washed my face. I made tea. I sat near the window and looked at the sky. It was clear and blue. I thought about the past weeks, all the small talks, the laughs, the waiting. I asked myself, was it real? I think it was real for me, but not for him. I gave my time. I gave my heart. He only gave a smile and some jokes. Now I see it. I was just a joke to him, but I was serious. I wanted more. I deserved more. I send my words into the unknown, hoping they reach someone. Are you there? Are you listening? If so, let me know. Drop a hello or tell me where you're listening. Just knowing you're here means everything. The days after Ben walked away felt quiet and long. I still went to work. I still smiled at customers. But inside, I felt different. Something in me had changed. I was not as happy. I was not as light. I was slower with my steps. I didn't check my phone as often. I didn't wait for a message that would never come. Megan, my coworker at the cinema, noticed. She said, "You look tired, Lucy." I said, "I'm fine," but I was not. I didn't know how to explain everything. I didn't want to say his name again. One evening, I finished my shift and walked home. The air was cool, and the wind touched my face. I looked up at the streetlights. Everything was quiet. I didn't wear my earphones. I didn't want music. I just wanted silence. At home, I made simple food and sat on the sofa. I looked at the wall. I thought, why did I fall for him? Why did I think he liked me? But there was no answer. Only silence. I looked at old texts, his jokes, his pictures, his small goodnight messages. They used to make me smile. Now they made me feel cold. I deleted them. It hurt, but I had to do it. I didn't want to read his words anymore. The next day, a message came. It was from Ben. "Hey, haven't seen you in a while. How are you?" I looked at the message for a long time. My fingers did not move. My heart beat faster, but not with joy, with anger, with fun, with something heavy. I didn't reply. An hour later, he wrote again, "Are you okay?" I turned off my phone. I told myself, he had his chance. He lost it. I didn't tell anyone about the message. I just kept it inside. At work, I stayed quiet. Megan didn't ask again, but I think she knew I was not the same. One weekend, I took a day off and stayed home. I cleaned my room. I washed the dishes. I folded my clothes. I tried to make my life feel normal again. I opened the window. The sun came in. I sat on my bed and felt a little better. Then something strange happened. I started to think about myself. Not about Ben, not about love, but about me, my dreams, my time, my heart. I thought, what do I want? I wanted peace. I wanted kindness. I wanted someone who really listened when I spoke. Someone who didn't laugh at my feelings. Someone who made time for me. Ben was not that person. I didn't hate him. But I didn't want him anymore. I wanted to stop feeling like a joke. I wanted to stop waiting for someone to choose me. I wanted to choose myself. The next few days were still hard, but a little better. I ate full meals. I started reading again. I smiled at small things, a warm coffee, a kind customer, a soft song on the radio. One night after work, Megan said, "Let's go out, just for some food." I said, "Okay." We went to a small place and ordered burgers. We talked about funny work stories. We laughed. It felt good. She looked at me and said, "I'm happy to see you smile." I nodded and said, "Me too." On the way home, I saw Ben's name again on my phone. Another message. Can we talk? Just for a bit? I didn't open it. I deleted it right away. I didn't want to hear his voice in my head again. That night, I slept well. I didn't dream of him. I didn't wake up sad. I just slept. 1 week later, I saw Ben again. He came to the cinema. I saw at the front. He walked in and looked at me. I looked back, calm and strong. He said, "Hi." I said, "Hello." He stood there for a second. "Can we talk?" I said, "No, I'm working." He said, "After work then." I shook my head. "No, Ben, there is nothing to say." He said, "I just want to explain." I looked at him. "You already did." He looked away. Then he said, "Okay," and walked off. My heart was beating fast, but I was proud. I stayed calm. I stayed clear. I didn't cry. I didn't run. I felt like I was finally in control. That night, I walked home slow. I watched the sky. It was full of stars. I thought, this is what I want. A quiet life, a clean heart. No games, no pain. I opened my door, took off my shoes, and sat down. I made tea and wrote a small list of things I wanted to do. Paint again, visit the lake nearby, watch old movies, try a new recipe, say yes to things that make me happy. I smiled at the list. Ben was not on it. He didn't belong in my future. Maybe one day I will meet someone new, someone better, someone kind, but for now, I was enough. My peace was enough. My simple life, my clean room, my quiet nights, they were enough. For the first time in a long time, I felt okay being alone. I was not weak. I just gave my heart to the wrong person. Now, I was learning how to take it back. Weeks passed. I didn't hear from Ben again. He stopped coming to the cinema. I didn't see his name on my phone. I didn't look for him online. I didn't wonder what he was doing. I just lived my life, one day at a time. Some days were quiet, some were busy, but every day felt a little better. My heart didn't hurt like before. I didn't feel lost anymore. I felt strong. One morning, I got up early and went for a walk. The sky was gray, but the air was fresh. I passed the small bakery near the corner. I passed the school, the post office, and the little park with the old bench. I sat there for a few minutes. I watched people walk past. A mother held her child's hand. A man walked his dog. A boy rode his bike. Life moved on. And so did I. I made changes in my life. I started painting again. I bought cheap brushes and paper. I painted flowers, trees, and the sun. I didn't care if they looked perfect. I just liked the colors. I also tried cooking new food. I watched videos online and made simple meals. Some were good, some were not. but I enjoyed the process. My kitchen smelled warm. I smiled while I cooked. At work, I was more confident. I spoke clearly. I helped customers with patience. I even made jokes with Megan. She told me, "You look happier now." I said, "I am." One evening, Megan and I went to the lake. It was a short drive from town. The sky was soft and pink. The water moved slowly. We sat near the edge and took off our shoes. We didn't say much. We just listened to the wind. She looked at me and said, "You're doing better." I nodded. "Yes. I don't miss him anymore." "I'm glad," she said. "He didn't treat you right." "I know," I said, "but I learned something." "What?" "I learned to choose myself." She smiled. That night, I thought about those words again. I chose myself. I used to wait for someone to love me. I thought I had to try hard, smile more, stay quiet, and be easy. But now I knew love doesn't work that way. Love is not something we beg for. It is something we give, and something we should also receive. One day, I was helping a man at the cinema. He had light hair and wore glasses. He asked about the next movie time. I told him, and he said, "Thanks for the help." He smiled and looked down for a second, then said, "You have a kind voice." I smiled back. "Thank you." He walked away. I didn't feel nervous or excited, but I noticed something. I didn't think about Ben. I didn't compare. I didn't remember the pain. I just felt calm. Later that evening, I saw him again. He bought popcorn. He smiled again and said, "Do you like this movie?" I said, "Yes, it's a good one." He said, "Maybe I'll see you again sometime." "Maybe," I said. He left. I watched him walk to his seat. I didn't rush to hope. I didn't make plans in my mind. But I also didn't close the door. That night, I thought about how far I had come. There was a time I cried in this room. There was a time I waited for a message that never came. There was a time I felt small, but not anymore. Now I felt ready, not just for love, but for peace, for the little joys in my life, a walk in the sun, a kind word, a clean home, a quiet night. I didn't need a person to feel whole. I just needed to remember my worth. One Saturday, I went to the store to buy more paint. I walked slowly, not thinking about anything big. I passed a street corner and saw someone standing near the shop window. It was Ben. He looked at me. He gave a small wave. I stopped for a second. I gave a small wave back. Then I walked on. I didn't feel pain. I didn't feel sad. I didn't want to talk. And I didn't look back. I was free now. He was part of my past, a chapter that had ended. He taught me something important: how to stand up after a fall, how to see red flags, how to walk away from people who don't care. He didn't give me love, but he gave me a lesson. And that lesson made me stronger. Now, when I look in the mirror, I see someone who is learning, someone who is healing, someone who is still growing, but no longer breaking. I smile at myself, not because life is perfect, but because I made it through, and because next time love comes, I'll know better. I hope my story stayed with you. Like and comment if you want to hear more. Soon.